The FBI arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan demonstrates no one is above the law.
No, definitely no. What this demonstrates is that Donald Trump is taking the guardrails off. Everyone who's talking about how there's going to be a fascistic takeover, Donald Trump is actively trying to undermine the two other branches of government. This is a check in that box, right? Hannah Dugan, the district judge in Wisconsin, she perhaps might have interfered with an immediate arrest of an illegal immigrant. And but ultimately, ICE got him, right? He got him 10 feet, 20 feet away from the courthouse. This is crazy. This is Donald Trump making good on his promise to go after judges, whether it's impeachment, whether it's arrests. He tried to do it in 2018, and that failed. And look, I just look at this as Donald Trump. We gave him the benefit of the doubt coming into office. We said, all that stuff's fear-mongering. Maybe he'll be okay, but ultimately we should cheer for him because if he does well, the country does well. He's back to his old tricks, and I don't like this one bit. And quite frankly, I'm a little scared about where this thing can escalate.
If Trump went after a judge for what they were doing inside the courtroom, this would be a very different conversation, right? In the same way, the Supreme Court ruled that you can't be, criminally indicted for official acts of the presidency. That is different than if Donald Trump, got a DUI or, beat up someone in his personal life. That is not an official act of the presidency. In the same way, holding an illegal immigrant away from ICE custody, harboring them, that is textbook obstruction of justice. Okay, so let's look at the defendant in question. His name is Eduardo Flores Ruiz. He is an illegal immigrant, and he was charged with 3 counts of battery, domestic violence, and infliction of physical pain. This is someone that the witnesses in question were scared to testify against him because, it's always difficult to get people to testify on the record with domestic violence cases. The judge in question, Hannah Dugan, was harboring him as a fugitive, right? And when you walked into her courtroom, she had on the door warnings for defense attorneys. If you fear for your client, in coded language, basically saying, bring them to me. That is not within your capacity as a judge, does not mean you are allowed to harbor illegal immigrants who are wanted for violent crimes, who have been charged. And look, there are plenty of more sympathetic illegal immigrants that while the letter of the law may say they are illegally present here, they haven't otherwise committed violent offenses. And those are going to be the difficult cases in the court of public opinion. I don't think people are going to be super excited at seeing dreamers that have gone to college and served this country and never been on welfare if they are subject to the mass deportations. People need to stop jumping and defending everything this early in the process, especially when judges don't get a pass to harbor illegal immigrants who are charged with violent crimes in the same way presidents wouldn't get that pass.
I'd be willing to accept your argument 100% if this had occurred in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
If this was one judge overstepping her judicial, responsibilities and trying to, obstruct the government in another capacity, sure. But it's not happening in a vacuum. It's very, publicly happening as Donald Trump is saying, we should arrest judges who disagree with me, not necessarily judges who act against an arm of the government. It's just, it's thought policing. It's threatening. He's trying to subsume the entirety of the federal government for the executive branch. And I think it's scary. Again, look at the Abrego Garcia case, which we've talked about before. We don't want to relitigate his actual criminal history. But the Supreme Court ordered the White House to return him, even if they were just going to deport him to another country.
It's facilitate. But yes, the hilarity of it all is that theoretically, Trump could just deport him, not bring him back to America and then deport him. But I believe the way the order is written, he could just send him from El Salvador to literally any other country that would be willing to take him.
He could send him to the detention center at Guantanamo. That's U.S. soil.
Yeah.